Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of GLP's 10 out of 10. And today we're joined by Peter Morse. Hailing from Chicago, Peter is now a resident of Lake Tahoe. Early career paths included being a musician and studying medicine before turning to the world of lighting and production design. Peter has enjoyed a career spanning more than 40 years and has brought his illuminating talents to feature films such as The Bodyguard and Showgirls. He's also lit production and TV specials for Glee, Andrea Bocelli, Disney on Ice, and the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. But Peter is probably best known for his work in the world of concert touring. He has been lighting both Barbra Streisand and Bette Midler since 1994. He's lit country music icons, Kenny Rogers, Dolly Parton, Reba McEntire, Shania Twain, and Carrie Underwood, along with a list of global music superstars that are second to none. Madonna, Usher, Janet Jackson, Tina Turner, Michael Jackson, Christina Aguilera, and the Eagles, to name just a few. Peter has been nominated for multiple Emmy Awards and winning for his work with Bette Midler. He's also won 2 ACE Awards for his work with Madonna and has been awarded as Lighting Designer of the Year by LDI, Performance Magazine, and the Parnellis. Welcome, Peter Morse.
Hello, how are you, Mark?
I'm great. I'm great. It's great to have you with us. It's great that you can find some time for us. Thank you very much.
Well, it's a pleasure. I've got a lot of time, but even if I didn't, I'd spare some for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's very kind. So our first question is, what was your first show as a designer? So I guess we'll go straight into that.
My very first opportunity as a designer was with a country artist, Mac Davis, who unfortunately just passed away recently.
Right.
And I was working out of an agency in Minneapolis that booked college concerts, small colleges around the country. And Mac was one of those up and coming artists. He'd written several hits for Elvis, In the Ghetto, etc., Don't Cry Daddy. And he'd been on Johnny Carson a few times. So he was getting some attention. So they signed him up, as they did other artists, and gave him a flat fee per week, and then took him out to the various college dates where a representative from their agency, which in this case was me, would go with them and collect the check from the college, and then of course give him his flat fee. Right. And I was the filter. A couple months went by. He did a couple more TV shows, and he said, it's time for me to get some lighting. Can you find me a lighting guy? I'll give him $500 a week. I said, well, I do lights. And he said, you do? I said, yeah. He said, why didn't you tell me? I said, you never asked. Right. He said, okay, well, I'll give you an extra $50 a week. I said, well, wait a minute. Anyhow, we negotiated our way around that. And I started going to these venues with him still as a solo artist. Right. And I had no idea what the hell I was doing. But
that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And it just, obviously you didn't make too many mistakes along the way. And like you said,
well,
just made it up.
There were a few, but sometimes mistakes actually work quite well.
So I'm sure with all of the shows that you've done, they've all gone extremely smoothly. I doubt there's any question of that at all. But But maybe there's just one or two little stories that you might have where things just didn't quite go according to plan. So do you have any kind of Spinal Tap moments?
On one of Dolly's tours, she ended every night with Great Balls of Fire, the old Jerry Lee Lewis song. And at the very end, she dropped down retard and goodness gracious, great balls of fire. And we'd fire off a shit pile of pyro, airbursts, concussion mortars, all kinds of stuff. Well, on this particular night, we were about maybe 4 or 5 songs before the end. She was doing a song, a little ballad, that by her own description is a pitiful little ballad. It's a sad little song called Me and Little Andy. And it's a song about a little girl and her little dog named Little Andy. And they come to the door looking for some place to sleep. Just going on, her and her guitar, maybe one other guitar player playing acoustic behind her. Meanwhile, my pyrotech backstage is doing his normal test of circuits, but he didn't realize that power was already being run to the circuits. And right in the middle of the damn thing, the whole damn thing went off. Right in the middle of this tiny little ballad with Dolly's little voice, and ain't you got a place for me and my little dog Andy, you know, and you know, boom, 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 boom. And Dolly instantly said, "Oh my God, they blew up my dog." That was all she could think to say.
Brilliant, brilliant. We mentioned, of course, your career so far is spanned more than 40 years. What would you say is the best piece of advice that anyone's ever given you, either professionally or otherwise?
Well, maybe rather than the best, how about the most memorable?
Okay.
We were at the Dominion Theatre in London, preparing for a live TV shoot with Dolly in concert.
Okay.
I was privileged to have John Rook beside me. And we're sitting there the night before the show, and he's letting me program, and I'm running sliders up and punching it in, and he's going, I said, "Something the matter, John?" He said, No, keep going. It's quite all right. Very British. And, you know, I'm building cues, and he keeps moaning, going, "No, okay, let me make a note." I said, "Well, if you're making a note, tell me now. What is it?" He says, "All right." He said, "Take a look at the look you have up there right now." I said, "Right." He said, "Squint." I said, "Squint?" He said, "Yeah, squint." I squinted. He said, "What do you see?" I said, "Well, nothing." He said, "Well, there you are then."
Right. There you go. That's
basically I was grossly underlighting this damn show.
Right.
At least in his eyes. So that for some reason that always stuck with me.
What would you say professionally is your proudest achievement so far?
One that comes to mind immediately is We Are the World. What was most interesting was the fact that I had quite a few clients, either present clients at the time or soon to be clients on that shoot. Of course, there was Lionel and Michael Jackson, Bette Midler, Kim Carnes, Pointer Sisters, Kenny Rogers, who I'd sung with for a number of years, and the Christie Minstrels. Yeah, and Sheila E. So I was surrounded by people that I knew and worked with, but also eventually people that I would be working with in the future. So, and that was a wonderful, powerful evening, you know, with what went on in creating that great video.
So obviously, as we mentioned earlier, there's been not so much traveling and not so many shows happening at the moment with all of our lockdowns and everything. But normally, when life is back to normal, when you're not out traveling, what do you normally do in your downtime?
Those who know me know that I have a couple toys that are all consuming, not just time-wise, but financially. One's a 1940 Garwood speedboat, which is a, you know, all mahogany boat that was built 81 years ago that we keep up here at the lake. And coincidentally, and totally coincidentally, but I also have a 1940 Ford Woody wagon.
Right.
And those two pieces of art have kept me occupied. A lot of work has gone into them, a lot of restoration, and a lot of enjoyment.
Great. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Well, great hobbies. They look absolutely beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
You've mentioned a few places that you've traveled to, but I know you've traveled all around the world, across all the continents with different shows. Have you got any one particular venue that you enjoy more than any other?
My favorite venue currently is one I had the privilege of working in a couple of years ago, and I won't say this properly, so my apologies now to anyone who speaks even decent German. It's the I'm not going to try and say it in German. Friedrichstraat Palast, the Friedrichstraat Palace.
Okay.
The interesting thing about this theater, the original version of this theater was built in the early 1900s. It was reconstructed completely by the GDR behind what was then the wall of East Germany, East Berlin. It's a massive, massive theater, and typical of the German technology. and even coming from the GDR. The it has basements and sub basements. The stage elevators go down 90 feet
Wow.
to all different levels, all hydraulically operated.
Wow. worth going to check it out if anyone's ever close to Berlin.
It's worth seeing. Proudest. Go to my website. It's spelled out with the address.
Right.
And it's just a beautiful venue. It's worth seeing.
Yeah. Wow. Fantastic. If you know, we've spoken about different quarantine and lockdowns and everything like that. If you had to pick one musical artist or one musical album that you would want to keep with you throughout, you know, an extended lockdown, who would that be?
Well, first of all, Bee Gees.
Okay. Right.
You know, I was a lifelong fan of theirs, first as a performer myself, but then of course as someone who observed the technology and just loved their music. I've always loved their music.
Yes.
And eventually honored to have designed their lighting on their final world tour and their final TV special. Any of their albums just are wonderful for me. I enjoy their music a great deal, and I think it's really timeless.
Fantastic. If you had to, or if you were able to, I should say, wind back the clock and go and visit the teenage Peter Morse and offer one piece of advice, what would that be?
I would say always have an ear open and listen to, notice everyone who's behind the scenes, whether you're going to a show, whether you're going to a concert, whether you're going to a car show or any kind of presentation. Watch the people behind the scenes, because they're really the ones who make it happen, not just the person in the spotlight, which
Right.
of course it is all about. But and I will say there are those people in the spotlight who all they need is a stool and one key light, and they could carry it for hours. But still, there's people behind them who get them where they're going, or get them on the stage or off the stage, or supply that one single light, what have you. Keep an eye on those people, because you'll learn more from them than anybody.
Right. Right. If you were able to sit down for a cup of coffee with any one person at all, either living or past, who would that be?
Steve McQueen.
Okay.
And I gave this some thought, and unfortunately, quite a few artists that I've worked with have passed on. And I'd give anything to be able to sit and chat with them again. I'm looking over because I wrote their names down over here, if you don't mind me looking over here.
Absolutely.
John Denver,
Right.
Eddie Rabbitt, Dottie West, Kenny Rogers, Mac Davis recently, June Pointer, Glenn Campbell. They all had something to contribute and a lot to learn from. And interestingly, one of the more intelligent, Eddie Rabbitt, was a brilliant guy, really brilliant guy, and an interesting guy to talk to. But again, you know, I still have to say one of my heroes, Steve McQueen.
Steve McQueen, right?
Yeah,
that's fascinating as an answer. That's brilliant. We've made it to our final question already, and the final question is: when we're done with the interview, your phone's going to ring, and it's going to be Team USA calling you up to compete for the Olympics. Now, it could be for either the Summer Games or the Winter Games, but the question is, what's the sport they're going to call you up for? What's the one thing you've always wanted to have a go at?
it's an easy one.
Okay.
Speed skating.
Speed skating. Okay.
I competed for 15 years, 12 years.
Okay.
In the Midwest. That was my my life up until I was about 20 and 19. My winter life, and without a doubt, that's what I still, well, I haven't this year, but I usually go down to the local rink and do laps. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Wow. I think it's a phenomenal sport to watch.
No,
it's incredible.
So much fun.
Wow. There we go. Speed skating. You're our first speed skater. So we're in.
Well, there you are then.
There we go. Peter, this has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much again.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
It's been absolutely brilliant, insightful. Just, you know, some of these stories, what a wonderful, wonderful career so far. So thanks for sharing.
Thank you very, it's a pleasure, Mark. Thank you.
All right. Well, take care. Obviously, we look forward to meeting up again in person when that time comes around. Hopefully
soon. Hopefully.
There we go. In the meantime, take care and thanks again.
All right. You too. Stay safe.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye now.